think it's essential to understand the historical development of membrane technology itself. RO was originally developed to get rid of salinity, to supply drinking water from seawater. In fact, if you see, most of the large-scale desalination systems are located around the coast. Chennai has 2 already, and I think one more is coming up.
Yeah.
So most of this, the earliest development of the membrane technology, RO technology itself with cellulose acetate membrane was pioneered by an Indian. Okay, then followed by the later development of polymeric membranes. So most of this was focusing on seawater desalination, where sodium chloride was to be built. Okay, so, and that all these membranes had necessarily have to have almost 99% removal of the salt, and with that kind of osmotic pressures, the recoveries were less than 40%. So that is where the question of large-scale wastage came. And since these are coastal desalination plants, the rejects were let it back into the sea, and that high salinity caused lots of environmental issues, which is still, most of the places have not been resolved. In fact, there are modeling studies which tell you at what point from the coastline you have to discharge, the minimum distance at which it has to be discharged to minimize the environmental impacts.
Sure.
Okay, so then the next level of development took place where these could be used for wastewater treatment systems. Well, it worked fairly well, but again, wastewater treatment is a matter of economics, and the cost of this treatment was not cope up with that very well. The place where actually the membrane technology found a good acceptance is in the chemical and pharmaceutical industries, particularly pharmaceutical industries, where the cost could be easily recovered, because then the processing was with small volumes, so batch studies, the processes could be done, and so it found good acceptance. From then on, I think it went on to different markets. My fundamental problem with domestic RO systems is many of them do not actually remove calcium. Okay, so a lot of calcium still comes through. And the problem with this, the membranes that are used, there's no technical description of what it removes. So we end up with a simple thing saying that desalination, so it removes TDS. And it does not tell you what TDS it removes. Okay, so that is one basic problem. The second thing is, most of this domestic water purifiers, the replacement concept is not there. And that is where, after some time, whether you actually get the benefit of the RO or not, you are not even sure. So these are the kind of issues, practical issues, which have to be, issues which create problem in accepting this technology. The earliest membranes were made of cellulose nitrate. Then cellulose nitrate and cellulose acetate. But they are all isometric membranes, which will pass through everything very easily. So they're not very tight enough. So at this stage, Professor Swaminathan, who was at National Research Council in Canada, he developed the so-called asymmetric membrane, which sort of changed the whole concept, that they would have a very thin skin, which is the filter element, backed up by a porous membrane, which provided the mechanical support. So that was the fundamental principle, based on which all the further developments have taken place. Okay. But as Ravalji pointed out, the even though desalination technology had developed in Canada and US in the early stages, the real ground level applications came up only in Middle East and Israel, which were basically water starved. And again, which had access to coastal water. So the seawater desalination, it seemed to be, because, for example, if you take Middle East, they toyed with all kinds of, they don't have any other fresh water. Unlike Israel at least has some other sources of, it has rainwater and some sources of fresh water, but Middle East did not have anything. So this is where most of the large scale applications came up. Spain again is a very interesting area where both solar energy and desalination technologies developed together. Okay, so these are all certain aspects. But I think more importantly, when we look at desalination systems for large scale water supplies, many of the places where this is being promoted as a very important source of city water supply, like in Chennai, you have much better systems at much economical way. In fact, those we are leaving many other things and then going for this high technology systems, which are even very difficult to maintain, because even all said and done, the membranes are costly systems, and we don't have much production capacity for them. So a lot of it is imported, and so that is the reason why many of the RO systems have failed in many applications. And most of the time, we look at RO system as applied for a large scale, particularly, the city-wide scale and things like that. That's where a lot of ideas come, and there are questions about the economics and whether that's a good strategy or not. But when it comes down to domestic performance, there are certain other aspects that will have to be considered. Couple of points I'll just quickly make through. I personally don't agree with any prescribed levels about TDS. All this 500 and all this, I do not think that really makes sense, because what comprises the TDS, that is more important. It's not the level of TDS. People have survived and continue to live happily even at 1000 ppm TDS. And as long as, it's basically a question of taste and palatability. That's a major factor. In fact, there is no prescribed level of minimum TDS that is required, because many times RO water, you always say that you have to blend it with normal water to ensure the availability of the minerals. So there should actually be sort of minimum level that should be prescribed, which is acceptable. But that is not there. It all depends again on the type of salts that are present. So these are a couple of things that one has to look at. But personally, I feel that RO is not sort of technology that I would advise any for domestic water supply. Point of use particularly, because I think there are many other ways of providing good, clean drinking water, and this is this is slightly high-end technology, which may not be applicable to a large section of the population.